I'd like to welcome you to our interactive collaboration contractor panel. Just as a reminder, everybody will be muted. If you'd like to speak or ask a question, please raise your hand or simply unmute if that seems like a logical time to do so. My name is Eric Sandberg. I'm the program administrator for the CI program at New Hampshire Electric Co-op. And today we have joining us Keith McBrien from EEI and Jeffrey Wright from Compressor Energy Services. We're going to review a list of questions and kind of just open up an organic conversation. And, hopefully things will just flow as we go along, and looking forward to a nice conversation here. So let me first start by introducing Keith McBrien. Keith develops and manages energy improvement projects for customers in New Hampshire and Maine by helping customers identify, design, and integrate fuel-blind energy and renewable measures to reduce operating costs. In addition to his duties as a project manager, developer, Keith is the director of operations for EEI in Maine. All engineers, project managers, and site supervisors in the Maine office report to Keith. Keith has over 20 years of renewable energy project experience, including geothermal, solar PV, and biomass. Take it away, Keith.
All right, thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Everybody that's participating, I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So just give me a minute. I got a couple of slides. They're mostly photos. And just to give a quick introduction of what EEI does and how we integrate with the programs. And then we'll let Jeff take it away from there. And then Eric will ask questions. So and start off the open discussion. So let me try and share my screen. So EEI is a performance contracting company, and we primarily interact with the NHSaves programs with lighting improvements, energy management systems, or EMSs, sometimes called BMS for building management systems, condensing boilers, ERVs, energy recovery, or called energy recovery ventilators. We often install VFDs and VFS for variable speed drives or variable speed fans. And then we also do building envelope improvements. Our primary target is schools and higher ed and municipalities. So I'll just give you some photos of a recent project that we just wrapped up. This is Spalding High School in Rochester, New Hampshire. This building, we replaced an existing steam system. We replaced all the controls, and we added, there was several unit ventilators, so we replaced those with energy recovery ventilators, and we added some VFDs, and I'll show you some of the measures that we installed. So these are fully condensing boilers. We replaced gas-fired steam boilers, large Scotch Marine type, with these fully condensing boilers. These are some of the VFDs on the pumps for the hot water system that was previously all steam. All of the ERVs have VFDs as well for the supply fans, return fans, exhaust fans, and energy recovery wheels. We also installed a EMS, or energy management system. This is a screenshot of it, of one of the VAV boxes with the radiant heat panels that we installed. And I think my last slide is we replaced the domestic water heating system with a new fully condensing domestic water heating system. So at that point, I'll stop sharing. Those are the only pictures I have. And I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Yeah, just one more thing. I just want to let the audience know if they have any questions to enter into the Q&A panel, and we'll review those as we go along, or save them to the end, depending on time. Next up, we have Jeff Wright. Jeff Wright is co-founder of Compressor Energy Services, established in 2002 here in New Hampshire. He grew up in the business, helping out with his family compressor distributorship, starting back in 1976, rebuilding, reciprocating compressors after soccer games, and secured one of the first utility incentive YESTs in the country in the early 90s. Take it away, Jeff.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, working for a family business in the compressor business kind of stole the youth, and been doing this now since 76. Probably look it. Just probably the best way to leverage New Hampshire Saves incentives is really, it's pretty simple. It's easy, really. Call early and call often, and that they're really considered, and they're incentivizing you versus a rebate. So by calling early and often, you're not looking in the rearview mirror, and that's a big distinction. Our focus is in the industrial setting with air compressors. And why focus on compressed air? And according to the Department of Energy, they've identified and targeted that compressed air systems as the largest potential energy demand savings area in manufacturing. So it is all in the 1-year payback range typically, and that 95% of all compressed air systems have low cost energy conservation efficiency opportunities. So even if you have a small system or a large system, there's a lot of gain, a lot of juice for the squeeze. How to get started with New Hampshire Saves? There's utility cost shares and incentives available for compressed air leak studies. And most of these leak studies are covered, the study portion after the leaks have been repaired. So there's, with a little bit of elbow grease getting the leaks repaired, the cost of leak studies are covered. In that, we can typically measure power flow and pressure of the system to baseline it. And there's also supply and demand side of these assessments. And in New Hampshire, the compressed air system optimization, CAISO, with the incentives, bring it down typically to a 1-year payback. And getting to that and getting our hands around these optimization requires the metering to baseline. And again, a large percent of that can be covered. One of the things that just we find is that our experience at CES, that between 50% and 50% and 2/3 of the air is used for non-productive uses. And this is according to the Department of Energy as well. They say 50%. So basically, how much air is going to the plant on Christmas or Thanksgiving as a percentage to what is being used first shift midweek. And we've seen plants that are consuming 1,000 CFM on Christmas, and peak production is only 1,200 CFM. A rule of thumb here is 1 CFM is $250 a year. This is if you're operating 24/7. So even if you can go out, fix 4 leaks, and these are ones you can barely hear when the plant's idle, if you're running 24/7, there's $1,000 worth of savings. So if anybody asks, what have you done for me lately? Yeah, you've brought $1,000 worth of savings. It's about $1,000 per horsepower, again, 24/7. And if you had a 100 horsepower compressed air system and you're able to drop it 2 PSI, there's 1,000 in savings. And that's probably the leaks and reducing pressure are really the 2 starting points if you're considering efficiency of the compressed air system in terms of savings for the effort. This is Sig Sauer. Quickly, let's see, move this. They had an expansion. This is working with Unitil over in Exeter. They were expanding, needed more air. It was a $500,000 project. Unitil kicked in $228,000. So even, providing, if you were to just go out and buy a plain vanilla standard efficiency compressed air system versus running an efficient one, there was about $70,000 a year difference in savings going with a more premium efficient system. That SIG is really an incredible manufacturer here in the state, obviously. The other thing on this compressed air system optimization, working with Timken, this was a $68,000 project, $43,000 from Eversource. So it was a $24,000 after incentive to Timken, and they were saving $26,000 a year. So basically, what I would say is if you have a larger industrial facility, we're running and gunning for this 1 year payback type area. And then we did a project with Velcro, some similar expansion, and Eversource kicked in $200,000 on that project. So there's the whole way to how to get started is metering and getting that power flow and pressure, and from there you can start working on optimization and efficiency improvements.
All right. So again, thank you guys. It's very impressive, doing great work, and look forward to working on many more projects with you. So like I said, we'll move forward with the Q&A portion of our event. And if you have questions, please submit them as they come along, and we'll start off the conversation here. And the first question for our panelists here is, how long have you worked in the program, and how has the experience been? And just a general, question to try to, kick things off here.
Jeff, why don't you go first on that one?
Certainly. Actually, yeah, Keith and I, we founded Compressed Energy Services 2002. Keith was with New Hampshire Electric Co-op. So I've been working in these programs with since 2002 now.
Yeah.
And the incentive programs are becoming very user-friendly, and we're all aligned, and it becomes a win-win-win. Utility, New Hampshire Saves are looking to provide these resources, the energy engineering and various programs. Obviously, we're able to help out a customer. They get into more efficient equipment and more reliable, and we obviously are able to do more business. And the programs have been instrumental in facilitating that. What I really believe is a win-win-win. And when all three concerns get involved, it's really a good outcome and a great simple payback.
Yeah, exactly like Jeff said. So I personally been involved with the program since early 2000, but with EEI, they have been engaged with the program since the company started in 2007, and currently we are working with all the utilities and incentive programs in New Hampshire for just about every nook and cranny of the state, and our experience has been fantastic. The programs are always super helpful. With EEI, our sales cycle is best case 1 year, but could be as long as a 5-year sales cycle. And lots of things change between then and now, and the programs change. So we just try to work together and help each other to help the end customer who's ultimately paying into the programs. And with municipals and schools, any dollar that they can get back goes right to the bottom line and helps lower the impact on taxpayers. So it's a huge thing. And like I said, our experience has been fantastic. We have a very close relationship with all the players in NHSaves. Good question, Eric.
Hey guys, we
Excellent.
actually got a question in the chat, so I'll read that out loud to you. From Jim Armstrong, he asked, why are compressors always set around 110 psi when most loads are only 24 psi? So pretty technical.
Is-
That's a Jeff Wright question right there. That's a pinch hit.
There's Jim Armstrong. That's somebody who we've known for 20 plus years as well. I'd say it's going on 20 years. What typically happens is compressors are set for the whatever is the most pressure sensitive equipment in the plant. And what's happening is pressures are set higher and higher to satisfy that pressure sensitive equipment. And so basically, if it's typically because that last piece of equipment is at the end of the line, it's got a lot of hosing, the quick connects, it's not delivered well. The dirty 30, the last 30 feet of piping, there's usually some deficiency in getting air to that machine. So instead of fixing the ailment, you're fixing symptoms. And typically what happens is raising that pressure. And as Jim suggested, yeah, we see a lot of systems that are running at 110, and after optimization, we're running around 90 psi. I would say that most systems that we've worked with run at 90 psi. And if we have any demands that actually do require that higher pressure, that a point of use booster, just a pneumatic booster to handle that higher demand, and check the box there. And then the rest of the equipment, if it's delivery, if the dirty 30's been addressed, we can run at 90 psi. We actually have a plant running at 80 psi and sometimes 78 psi here in the state.
Right. Okay,
Awesome.
moving on.
Yep.
How has working with the programs benefited your business?
Jeff, if you don't mind, I'll go first on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for us, the benefit has been adding additional scopes of work that we couldn't do originally in the project to help our customers get additional things done that help their overall lower their bills. Their efficiency is increasing. So we don't, when we, like I said, we have such a long sales cycle that we don't promise them anything, but when we plan these projects out, if there is incentives available, we always try to use that money for something additional that we hadn't planned on doing. And many times it'll be another energy efficient measure that could again qualify potentially for an incentive, working collaboratively with NHSaves to then get a potential another incentive, and then use kind of leapfrog that benefit to keep helping the school district or the town or whatever our customer needs at the time.
Right. Jeff?
Yeah, and I would mirror what Keith said, that it's the comprehensiveness of what we've been able to offer, instead of just focusing on just the compressor and getting it installed economically, and putting in a new VSD compressor when the piping and the storage and some of the filtration isn't up to par. That by working with the utility companies, they'll evaluate the savings of the push button cost of doing it properly and the most efficient. So the push button cost is increasing the pipe sizing, increasing the storage, and getting a system completely up to par. And so from the standpoint of benefiting our business, is we've been able to do more comprehensive, have bigger projects that have yielded better savings and better system overall, and able to put in systems that are, if a company's growing, we can make sure have enough capacity and enough drying and air treatment that if the company grows or if they have a slowdown, that we're always on the perfect energy curve. So we're able to offer a better mousetrap at the same outlay of money and the same investment. The capital acquisition costs are the same of doing it, let's say, more economically, of being able to do things properly. And we've been able to to provide a better, more robust system than we would if we didn't have the utility involved.
Very good. Thank you for that. Next up, we have, what has been your biggest challenge within working with the programs? What would you say, the challenge maybe getting people on board early, or how would you say, what would be, what would be your biggest challenge working in the programs?
I can start off, Jeff, if you're all right with that.
Sure.
One of the challenges, the biggest challenge, was in 2002, I think, when there were some changes in the program that were not internally driven, but they were externally driven. And those kind of challenges can make it really confusing for the end use customers, because they, we will be presenting them with potential incentives, but again, sales cycle takes time and things happen. But I think it was in 2002 when there was an impact to the programs that definitely sends a conflicting message. It's hard for people to understand, how to handle that. So we do what we can to try and support the programs at a state level with trying to spread the word of how we work collaboratively with NHSaves. So that's the biggest one for us.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think probably our biggest challenge, and rightly so, if there's going to be a six-figure incentive put against a project, that there's a time component to making sure that that all the savings have been documented and the methodologies have been documented, and that sometimes there's some urgency with equipment that's failed and needing to replace things right away. So our biggest challenge is the urgency to get new equipment in as quick as possible, especially if there's a rental compressor, and then the timeline to obviously making sure that we've got our the engineering approvals. But I think that over time, in the 20+ years, that time has been greatly reduced, and I would say that it's our biggest challenge, but it's one that's year by year getting better and easier. But there is sort of that urgency and need and getting a machine right away and order something that's in stock versus getting a $100,000 incentive. So somewhere between bridging those 2 points is probably our biggest challenge.
Okay. What information or advice do you have for contractors starting out in the programs?
Jeff, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would suggest connecting with somebody like Eric, with New Hampshire Electric Co-op, or with Eversource, somebody like with Jack, who handles the market segment you're in, and just have a cup of coffee and just discuss the nuances, how to best engage, because those resources, and it's all interpersonal, but just actually start getting there's what's published, and then there's what just sort of the unspoken, and how to collaborate. Just get together and figure out how to collaborate will have huge dividends.
Yeah, and to second what Jeff said, his beginning slide, reach out early and often. The NHSaves programs are incredibly helpful. And if the more you can, the more details you have, the more you can share with the program people, the more they can help you. And it's a it's a collaborative. So you really gotta reach out to them as soon as you think you have something, and just keep them up to date as to how things move along, and they'll be able to help you. If things change within your project, just let them know, and maybe they can find a way to help you navigate that change and how it might or might not impact the potential incentives or the energy efficiency, the result of the project. So I guess just simply put, like Jeff said in his beginning slide, early and often.
Very good. Next up, we have, do you have any suggestions for the audience on how to best work with utilities?
So if you don't mind, Jeff, I'll go and
Yep.
we'll play off each other here and see what we can come up with. The biggest suggestion is to have kind of an idea of your end goal of where you want to get to. Let's say that you want to work towards reducing greenhouse gases emissions, or potential net zero, or if you want to work towards reducing costs, whatever if you have a goal in mind, that is the thing you want to bring it forward to the utilities, and then they can hopefully help you align with the right people to help you figure out how to meet that goal.
Yeah, and I would say anything that's in the that's get capital or anything purchase order related that's consuming electricity or gas, and the vendor should be pointing and making those connections. But certainly, if not, reach out to the utility companies directly, because there's resources that can help do further engineering, make sure it's done better, stronger, faster, and then obviously the incentives against that. So certainly if the vendor doesn't seem to have a pathway, then reach out to the utility companies and just and ask whatever the vertical you're in, if it's hospitals or schools, or if it's industrial, there's usually somebody that runs that vertical or that space.
Very good, thank you. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the questions. Do we have anything from the audience? Would anybody like to chime in with some comments, suggestions? Take that as a no. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us today and shedding some light on these very important topics. I know it's for us, it's nice to keep an open line of communication with you guys, the contractors, and to try to get a forecast of what you guys might have coming up in the year or two. And it helps us organize and make sure that you guys are being taken care of directly, immediately, or as quick as possible. So I know that working with the contractors and distributors, vendors and such, that it's nice to have, that open line of communication, and the relationships that we have are very important. So look forward to working with you guys on future projects. And thank you very much. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. This is also going to conclude our, excuse me, our presentation for today. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. The questions and presentation will be available on the NHSaves website in a few days. And there will also be an email with a survey that we'd like everybody to fill out, so we can better plan our event for next year. And yeah, with that, I'll leave it. And again, thank you guys. And
Thanks,
look
Eric.
forward to seeing you soon.
Take care.